Hello everybody, it's Jen. Today I'm doing a review of the Arteza Everblend Alcohol Markers. So the first part of the video, I'm just going to show you the markers and then we will get into a card tutorial so you can see how well these markers color. So first of all, I'm just showing you, these are the 120 pack of the Everblend markers. It comes in this really wonderful storage case that has a handle and there's a little pocket in the back. Now this handle is removable, which I love. I did use these markers for quite some time before I did this review so that I could give you my honest opinion with them. You can see my case is already a little dirty. I've been trekking it back and forth with me to various places, coloring images. And I'm just showing you here, I cut off the little color charts that come on attached to the carrying case. And there's this little zipper compartment in the back and I just slide those in there so that I have the color chart with me when I'm on the go. I also put the handle back there for when I'm at home, and then I can easily get the handle back out when I need to take them on the road with me. So here's a look at all the markers. I've gone ahead and I've ordered them into a rainbow system, and then I have my brown colors to the back side and my grays to the front of the carrying case. The sides of the carrying case do come apart. It's all Velcroed, so you can easily see all your markers, and then this inside panel actually comes out, which I think is a great feature of the carrying case, because then you can either wash or wipe down the carrying case and leave the majority of the markers intact, just taking out those ones to the back and the front. And you'll notice that they do have extra spaces where you can add additional markers, which I think is great as well. So again, just showing you the colors here, and I'm going to pack this back up with all the Velcro sides, and then it's nice and compact. I'm going to give you a look at the markers here. So it's a triangular shape. There's a nib tip on one end, which I'm showing you here now. And then there's a chisel tip on the other end. And I'm just showing you that the nib tip does have a color code ring by the cap, so you know which end you are working with, which I think is a great feature. So just going to show you all sides of the marker, and then I'm going to show you the markers in comparison to my Spectrum Noir markers. These are the only markers that I own that are what I would say are comparable. So here's the two nib tips for both the Everblend and the Spectrum Noir. Now there are newer Spectrum Noir markers on the market, which I don't have. Here's a look at the chisel tip. I'm not going to talk about Copic markers in relation to the Everblend markers. I personally don't think it's a fair comparison. I think it's like comparing apples to pineapples personally, because the Copics are brush nibs. So I'm just going to show you here the difference between the two markers. Some of you may already have the Spectrum Noir markers in your collection. So I'm just quickly writing out, just showing you the nib tip for both the Arteza and the Spectrum. Don't worry about my messy handwriting. I was just doing this really quickly. Now you can see the Arteza is a bit more fine tip. I don't know if it's a fair comparison completely, because I've used my Spectrum Noir markers for years and the nib tip just might be getting soft and needing replacement. You can actually write with the chisel tip as well, although it's a bit challenging, and my spelling there of Spectrum was not the greatest, but I just wanted you to see that you could actually write with them. So now I'm going to do some blending with three of the Arteza markers. I do have the caps to the left-hand side of the screen. In my videos, I typically leave the caps out. Now, one of the things I will say is if you do videos, the Arteza markers are very hard to read the caps on screen. I'm not even able to tell you what the colors are because while I'm doing the voiceover in my editing software, it's very hard to even read the names and the numbers. So we're going to jump into making the card. I'm going to use the Baked with Love set by Lawn Fawn here. And I'm going to go ahead and color in all these images, and I'll tell you a little bit more about my opinion of these markers as I do that. So as I said, it's very hard to read the caps on screen. The numbers are really long and they don't make sense to me whatsoever. I don't feel like they follow a pattern for blending. So it's a little bit tricky to figure out which ones go with which. You just kind of have to play around with them. Now I do know that my fellow creators, Mary Polanco and Courtney Kreber, have done a color chart for these markers. And so I encourage you to maybe ask them to share that. I know they share them with their viewers if that's something you're interested in. One of the other things I did notice with the caps is that some of the numbers are already chipping off a little bit or rubbing off. So I worry about that a little bit if you use them quite frequently. If that doesn't really matter to you, then it's no big deal. In terms of coloring, the best way I found to color with these markers is to lay down your lightest color first all over the entire image. And this will allow the paper to become saturated, and it will just allow those colors to blend a little more easily. Now, I color very differently with a nib tip than I do with my Copic markers, which are a brush tip. So you'll notice here that I often will do a circular motion when I'm blending with these markers. But this particular color combination is absolutely beautiful. I get really great contrast here with this dark color in comparison to the midtones that I'm using. One other thing that I'll say about these markers is I find that there are fewer highlight colors, so those lightest colors with a lot of alcohol in them to give you that really bright highlight contrast is far fewer with the Everblend markers, but you still get a beautiful rich color here with these markers. So I would say if you like darker, richer colors, then these markers would definitely be for you. The vibrancy of this card when I have it complete, I think, is just absolutely stunning. Here's a kind of an aqua teal blend that I'm using now. I find as I've been coloring for a lot longer, I've moved towards a 4-color blend. Some of the markers, there's really only 2 or 3 colors that blend well together in this set, but you can kind of stretch that and make it work for you. You'll see here that even with a 3-color blend for this aqua teal color, it still looks really pretty. Just going ahead and adding in the darkest shadows now at this point. I want to make sure that this little cake stand looks round at the top and then to the bottom. So I'm drawing the darkest highlights to the sides. So these markers do blend really beautifully together. I was actually quite surprised given how affordable these markers are. At the time of doing this voiceover, which is the day before this video will go up, the markers retail for $119 on Arteza, and I'll leave the links to the products below and their website. But they currently have a sale going on right now where they are on sale for $92.73, which is amazing. It's less than $1 a marker. And they've also given me a special coupon code where you can save an additional 10%, and that information will be in the description box below as well. Now, while I was talking, I did do the tip-to-tip technique with the teal colors. Not sure if you caught that. One of the things that I do want to say about that is I usually use the chisel tip when I'm doing the tip-to-tip technique. And with these markers, because there's only the numbering system on the one side of the lids, which is the nib tip, if you take both of the lids off of your markers for multiple markers, it's very hard to know which color the marker itself is. So there's no numbering or name of the color of the markers on the actual marker. So it only appears on one of the lids. I hope that makes sense. So you just want to make sure that you know which marker is which if you're going to be doing the tip-to-tip technique, which is just touching the tip of a marker to another marker. So you can see here the yellows blended beautifully as well. I did use a bit of a brown color for the darkest areas of the yellow. Here's a really nice brown combination as well. I will say that there are a number of colors that can be used for skin tones in the 120 pack, but in my opinion, they are better for darker skin tones, which I think is great, and we need to see more blendable skin tone colors for darker colors. There needs to be, in my opinion, more markers for fair colored skin. I found myself, when I was practicing with these, going to my Copic markers for a light skin tone, just because I couldn't get a color combination that I was really happy with. But other than that, I've had a lot of success with blending with these markers. I would say that if you're in the market for some alcohol markers and you don't want to spend a lot of money, these are excellent. And I'm going to be using them for when I need to kind of, like I said, move on the go with my markers. I find them really easy to take from my craft room, which is upstairs in my house, down to where I would watch TV, so I can just color while I'm relaxing. And at this price point, I also don't have any problems sharing my markers when I'm at a crafty crop or something like that. So I'm really happy to have these in my collection, and I will continue to use them moving forward. Let me know if you have these markers. When I did the review of the Real Brush markers by Arteza, a lot of you left some really great comments about your opinion, and I think that that just really helps with other viewers who are maybe thinking about them. It's nice to hear more than one opinion. So I encourage you to leave down in the comments below your thoughts if you have these, and I'd be interested to know as well if you're considering purchasing these. It's a great time to grab them at $93 plus 10% off with my coupon code. So I would say go for it if you're in the market for some alcohol markers. You can see here the gray tones are absolutely beautiful. They do have, like the Copics, they have a warm gray set and a cool gray set. I'm using the cool grays here now. I'm getting really nice contrast with these markers, and I'm using a 4-color blend just so that I can have that lightest color really highlight the middle of the bowl. I'm going to use the lightest colors as well for some shading for the white parts of my images here. So I'm just using the darker grays for the steel tip of the icing bag, and then I'm going to use 3 lighter gray color combinations here for the white flower bag and the flower itself, as well as the icing bag, the little egg, and then the little triangle image there is just some flower that is outside of the flower bag, which I think is really cute. This is a new stamp set to me, although it's been out for years, so I was really excited to play with it, and I thought it would be great for the review that I'm doing today, so you could really get a sense of the various color combinations that you could use with these markers. One of the things that I also wanted to say about the storage case is I love, first of all, that it comes with one. I don't have to worry about trying to purchase something to store these markers in, which is fantastic. I mentioned that I love the handle. It's easy to wipe down when you can take out those markers from the center. The one thing that I find a little bit challenging is it can be hard to get the elastic bands that the markers go in. To slide those markers back into the case can be a little bit tricky. So here's the images all colored up. I did go ahead and use my scan and cut to cut out all of the images. And then we're going to go ahead and make the rest of the card here. So the other thing is, which I think is a pro, especially if you have hand issues, is that the marker caps are super easy to get on and off. They are much more easy. Let's use good grammar here. They are easier than the Spectrum Noirs by a mile. So that's one thing that I do really like about them. You saw me there just kind of cutting out those images. I need to replace my blade on my scan and cut, so it needed a little bit of help. But other than that, I think that's all that I wanted to say about the markers. I definitely will continue to use them. I'll link to a video at the end of this one as well where I colored with them for the Pink and Main Pen Pals card kit. So if you want to see some more coloring using these markers, you can check that out if you're kind of on the fence still about whether or not these markers are for you. But now we can focus on talking about the card. So I'm just using some Decofoil Metallics gel. This is in White Pearl. And I'm using one of my favorite stencils here. This is the English Brick Stencil by MFT. If you've been following me for a while, you know I love this stencil. I wanted to do a really quick background because I wanted the images to really stand out. So I thought it would be neat to kind of make it look like the images were sitting on a shelf, and then there's kind of like a brick or a tiled, subway tiled backsplash. That's the look that I was going for. With the counter, I was going for a steel top counter, so I'm using some silver foil paper here, and I'm just going to cut the edges on a diagonal, and that will be my countertop for these images. I did let this background dry overnight just so that it was good and dry before I adhered the rest of the elements. For this piece of foil paper, I'm just using my ATG gun to ensure that it has really good adhesive on the back. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to arrange my different elements here to create this little kitchen scene card. And I love the way that these vibrant colored images just pop out against the white background. So this I would consider a very clean and simple card. Lots of white space, very true to my style. I just love how it turned out. I'm using my Art Glitter Glue, which is a liquid adhesive, to adhere my elements down to my card base. You'll notice here that I'm creating a long card. So this card will fit into a standard business sized envelope. I wanted to get all of these images onto this card, and this was the only way I could figure out to do that. But it's often fun to kind of go out of the box and create something a little bit different than an A2 size card, which is usually what I create. And I think this allows all of these images to be nicely highlighted on this card panel. So some of the images I've popped up on some foam adhesive, like this little icing bag. I did add a little bit of foam tape to the handle of the spoon as well, but left the bottom of the spoon without foam adhesive, and I'll adhere that down with my liquid adhesive. So this little egg is so cute. I did pop that up as well. All of the little images here I've popped up on some foam tape. I wanted to put that little image of the flower beside the flower bag, and then the butter between the flower bag and the little mixing bowl there. I wanted to bring some color to that left hand side of the card. For the cupcakes, I colored one like a lemon cupcake and then one like strawberry. I wanted to make sure the pink one was to the right hand side just so that it wasn't close to the mixer. So that yellow cupcake just adds a little bit of a buffering zone between the two pinks. For the sentiment, I'm bringing out the Lawn Fawn stamp set that is called Sweet Friends, and I'm stamping the sentiment, You're the Sweetest. To finish off this card, I'm going to add a lot of white gel detailing here. If you've been watching my channel, I say this all the time, and you would know that I just love how this kind of brings life to an image. Just allows it to really pop off the paper. The white gel pen is absolutely stunning on the vibrant colors of the Everblend markers. So really love how that shows up on these cards, or how it shows up on these colored images. I thought it needed a little bit more color, so I'm bringing in some Distress Oxide in Picked Raspberry, and I'm using the little heart in the stamp set just to stamp this around the card. I had to kind of figure out where to place them based on where the bricks were not on the card base itself, so I had to kind of stick them in some opening spaces. So there's the card for today using the Everblend markers. I hope that you've enjoyed the card and the review. Let me know what you think about the markers if you have them. Let me know what you think about this card. Do you like the bright, vibrant colors? Or is it more not your style? I'd really love to know what you think. So here's a couple more videos that you can watch. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you really soon. Bye!